And welcome back to the live portion of our film festival. We love having you. We love that you're with us in the wee hours of the night, or we're actually getting there. I'm so excited to be introducing this next panel. I'm going to confess that even though I'm an artistic director of a film festival, filmmaker myself, dystopia and sci-fi is not my genre. And what I love about film festivals is you might actually get turned on to a new way of experiencing film or enjoying a film, and you're never too old to learn something new. And because our community has spoken to us after last year, wanted more sci-fi or dystopia in the lineup, I was forced to watch those films, and I'm so glad I did. And I discovered these two wonderful gems that speak to that genre and tell very, I guess you could say it would fit anywhere, human desire stories where we can connect as people who have needs, desires, wants, and then put it in this fantastical place. I want to thank all of you for being with us. I know David Liban. We met through the academic world. We both teach. David runs the film department over at in Denver. I think it's the University of Colorado. Did I get that right? Colorado University? University of Colorado. You have to decide where to put the U, before or after the C.
CU Denver.
CU Denver. It's a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful place to make movies. I just met Caleb in person now, or COVID style in person now. But as you know, because you've seen the film, we spend a really good amount of time with Caleb, actually about 4 years in the course of a movie. And Timothy McCracken, who is in the film, I didn't even recognize him as like a regular guy because of his performance and ability to transform in his role. And Noah Wagner, who was at a very similar film festival as mine. I was looking through what's available as shorts that really make you think, and I found his through the Pittsburgh Short Film Festival. So it's great to have you here. My colleagues Marty Camden and Kurt Chandler are going to take over from here. Marty is a terrific professor and filmmaker working with our film students, so he's going to have great conversation with you. Kurt Chandler is my co-founder of the film festival, and he likes to call himself the utility infielder, where he just picks up wherever something needs to get done and makes it happen. He also happens to have some serious years of digital storytelling, filmmaking, broadcast journalism. So I think you're all in for a treat. Have a great conversation. Please make comments live on your Facebook or YouTube. And if you're watching this recorded, feel free to email us if you have any follow-up questions or comments, and I'll see you at the other end of this conversation. Enjoy, and we'll see you soon. Enjoy the conversation.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Marty Camden. Unlike Pearl, I am a sci-fi guy, very much so.
Good.
All right, so for everyone, we have David Liban and Noah Wagner here. Excuse me. Well, Pearl kind of summed you guys up. So we're going to start with Noah. Noah, tell us about your film and where you came up with the idea.
Sure. So Watchroom was the short that was playing before David's film. And basically, for those who haven't seen it, it's about these three computer scientists who are testing artificial intelligence within the safety of a virtual reality simulation, basically running these existential scenarios so that when they release this technology to the public, it's working for humanity and not against it. And so at a certain point, they decide, let's make sure we get this right the first time, measure twice, cut once. And the AI learns that risk of being shut down and sort of turns the tables on its creators. And the idea kind of got its inception back in 2015. We found this article in this blog called Wait But Why, where they take these really high concepts and drill them down and explain them in like very almost humorous, but like very digestible terms. And this article just kind of gave me chills as I read it. This is before Black Mirror was out. This is before Westworld was out. Just making me think about really where AI is going. And so I shared it with my writing partner, Michael Kohler, and we both had goosebumps about it, and so we kind of put our heads together, and he went away and wrote it after we chatted a little bit, and then kind of the snowball continued rolling down the hill from there, and we really, we worked with a lot of we consulted with a bunch of AI scientists at Google DeepMind in order to try to get the kind of the accuracy as down pat as we could. Obviously, there's some anachronisms in the film and whatnot, but we tried to make a film that was accessible both for or enjoyable and satisfying both for the casual sci-fi viewer or someone who's not into sci-fi, but also people who wanted to go down the rabbit hole who have a lot of familiarity with the subject.
Wonderful. It did work. all you filmmakers out there, that is what research does for your stories. Fantastic. What draws you to science fiction stories?
Man,
what do you like about sci-fi?
I mean, well, I think what I love about sci-fi is, I mean, you take the what it stands for, science fiction, right? The science part of it. I'm a big fan of grounded genre in general and grounded science fiction, which hopefully is evident in Watchroom as well, where it feels grounded. It feels relatable. It feels like a world or a world adjacent that you could be living in. Doesn't necessarily have the Terminator running around, but it allows you to have the flexibility to tell a story or impart a message with some imagination and world building and flexibility. So it really
I think Boston Internet has just claimed a victim there. Up your back.
Oh, we lost you.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. Where did you lose me?
At the part where the AI-driven internet started hearing something it didn't want to hear, I'm pretty sure.
No, we were at the world building.
Oh yeah, just world building, and just gives you the flexibility to kind of tell the story that you want to tell, and in a compelling way and in a very thoughtful way. It's
excellent. How has the response been from the people from the computer people?
It's funny you asked that. So we did a kind of a private screening early on with those computer scientists at Google, and I found this with a lot of different audiences that I've shared the film with, but it kind of was broken into two camps. Of course, we didn't get everything accurate, so there are things that they chuckled at, but they all seemed to really enjoy piecing together the puzzle of the film and finding the little Easter eggs. And in a couple cases, I've heard they've wanted to share with one another. But the two camps I discovered were, vocally in our Q&A, people seemed a little, for lack of a better term, pessimistic about technology. Maybe a dystopian slant on things, which seems thematically appropriate to this conversation. And so I thought, I guess this, there is a dark tone to the film, but I had always taken I looked at the film through a kind of a cautiously optimistic lens with an emphasis on cautiously. And lo and behold, after the screening, there were a lot of, computer scientists who came up to me and completely disagreed with those who were more vocal about the negative side of things. And they thought, this is very hopeful. Of course, once again, we need to be careful. I think a technology is only as good as its data. And so we just need to be, really careful about who's putting the data in. Do we have a diverse, set of thinkers, putting that data in, and the rest takes care of itself as long as we're responsible and vigilant.
Excellent. I enjoyed your answer so much I forgot my next question.
Well, I got to tell you, the one Easter egg I liked the best was the guy with the "Who's Your Daddy" T-shirt. I mean, I was laughing so hard when I saw that. Whose idea was that?
So, the character of Bernard was supposed to be this like computer science bro. That was kind of the archetype we were trying to go for. And in keeping with that, we were coming up with the costumes. There was an AI scientist we were speaking with who was telling us about this guy, Jeffrey Hinton, who is known as the godfather of deep learning. And so that's whose likeness is on the shirt, and he said it would be a very nerdy but funny joke if we put "Who's your daddy?" Since he's the Godfather on a shirt, and I thought that is brilliant, and I love a good nerdy joke. So
an Easter egg within an Easter egg. That's brilliant.
I mean, even the chalkboard that you see in the background, you obviously never get a close up of it, but it is all heavily researched.
Okay. Excellent. How long did the writing and pre-production take, and how long was your shoot?
Sure. So the script was written by the end of 2015, more or less. We did a Kickstarter campaign in 2016 and began pre-production during that time. And then the first half of 2017 was the kind of meat and potatoes of the pre-production. We shot the first 3 days in the garage in Connecticut in June, and then we raised the rest of the money we needed to, and I've got those scenes kind of edited, at least like kind of a rough cut to know exactly what we needed to fill in during the simulation part. We shot that over 2 days in outside of Santa Cruz in the Bay Area along those cliffs. And so it was a bi-coastal production with like a big gap in between, a total of 5 days of production. And then from there went into post-production the end of 2017 and finished VFX in 2018. And then we released in 2019.
Very cool. So the opening shot in the virtual world, that's a drone?
Yes. We used a drone.
Oh, we lost him again.
That internet, it's killer.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. Yeah, so it was a drone, but we wanted to use it not only, because obviously drones capture, the majesty of the cliffside. The film really plays with objectivity versus subjectivity, which is why we're kind of using the point of view shots. And so we wanted to, for instance, open the movie on that drone shot to, kind of foreshadow this sense of, overlooking, onlooking, being objective, being omniscient. But yeah, short answer is yes, that was drone.
Well, I know that you are in a hurry to get out of here. I just wanted to add one more question so that you can do that before you have to go. And that, Marty and I, both professors, the thing that we want to know is what advice do you have for students who see a film like this and say, well, I want to do something like that? What's your advice to them? Yeah, so, it is truly, and I still stick by this mantra to this day, and it was true at the beginning. Every film starts as a snowflake, one step at a time, walking up a hill, and you just got to push it, and it becomes a snowball, and it becomes an avalanche. If you build it, they will come. So just put one foot in front of the other, be tenacious, and reach as high as you can, and you'll get farther than you think. What made you decide to take the plunge into doing this? You went straight from school and to industry, and then started doing this. So, how did you? What was the trigger that allowed you to say, "Yeah, I am going to do this thing. I'm going to start the snowflake snowball."
This
avalanche.
Particular film.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're talking about this particular, like the plunge to do this film after HBO.
Yeah.
Sure. So, I always wanted to be a director, since film school as well. And I was kind of always doing it on the side. And in part, the only real way I think to be a director is to direct. There's no ladder to climb or anything like that. And so, I took it upon myself and worked with my, collaborators and team, to make this movie. We were looking to make another film, and this seemed like an ambitious idea at the time, but it was, something that made us think a lot, and we wanted to kind of explore. So that's kind of it. It was just, the itch to continue working.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Noah. We'll let you go about your business.
Thank you both for having me, and we're really proud and privileged to be a part of the Center Film Festival this year. So thanks so much for the great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for bringing a terrific film. I really enjoyed watching it.
Thank you. Nice meeting you too.
Nice meeting you, Noah.
David.
All right. Thank you guys for waiting, Caleb, Timothy. And so now we get to A Fair World. I enjoyed this movie so much. I thought it was a wonderful job at all levels. We'll start at the beginning. Where did the idea come from?
The idea came from, I mean, I am a big fan of post-apocalyptic fiction. And, I've read many books. The Road was a huge inspiration to me. I was very much inspired by a book called Seed by Rob Ziegler, who's actually a Colorado resident and happenstance. But the other thing was that, I really just wanted to work in this genre. And on top of it, my son showed some potential as being an actor. So I saw this as a great opportunity to work with him and do this thing together.
And you don't have to pay him.
I did pay him, but, if I'm paying the other actors, I got to pay him too. I felt it was only fair.
Such a neat story. Where I wanted to assume that it was mostly Colorado, but where was it your locations?
Yeah, it was all in and around Denver. I think we were mostly in Denver proper. We went out to Longmont, which for people that don't know, that's about an hour outside of Denver. So it was all in Colorado.
Well, I was really impressed with the variety of landscapes.
Well, thank you. I was really finding locations was one of my biggest challenges, no doubt about it. Because when you talk about post-apocalyptic, there's certain expectations that the viewers are going to have, and so in Colorado, there are beautiful places, but finding the ones that are burned out or destroyed are a little harder to come by.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Timothy, Caleb. Well, first of all, Caleb, how was it? How was the acting experience? How long did you guys shoot this?
Well, so we began, it would have been summer 2015 when I was 11 years old. And then we finished the last part in summer 2019 when I would have been 15 years old. And so really it was a really interesting experience because I began when I was really young, and it was my first real experience acting too. And so it was really educational for me. It actually inspired me to want to make movies of my own and all that too. So it was a really a unique experience.
Absolutely. Did you find it easier or more challenging as the years went on?
It probably I got more comfortable with doing that kind of stuff. I'd never been really too intimidated by the camera. I'd always been enjoyed being in front of the camera. So it was never really a huge challenge, but you certainly after a time doing it, you get it down, you get better at knowing what you're good at and being able to perform in certain ways, and you get, just through more experience, you get better and better. But
well, I thought you did a wonderful job.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Timothy, I also thought you did a wonderful job. I imagine that you weren't shooting for 4 years?
I wasn't shooting before what?
For 4 years.
Oh, no. Correct. I shot for 2 years, which likewise was a pleasure. I had a chance to meet David from teaching at CU Denver as an adjunct, and had an opportunity to audition for the film. And one of the things I loved about the development of this film as a whole, as I learned about it, was the development as the story. I don't want to put words in David's mouth here, but just as it rolled along. And so the fact that there had already been 2 years of shooting by the time I joined was really exciting to me because there was these well-established characters and relationships that were already existing, and I think that really helped me to be able to step into the journey for the character that I played, and have an opportunity to connect with the cast and David and the crew as a whole. So it was a pleasure.
Well, like I said, you guys did a wonderful job.
Thank you very much.
Kurt, do you have any questions?
Well, I mean, I wanted to start off just asking David, what was it like, when Caleb showed up with an agent, and how did that affect homeschooling?
Yeah.
No, seriously, I've done projects with my kids. One of them's a sound engineer, and the other one's a photographer and videographer. And it's always a fine line for me, I don't want to push them to do something and make it, Dad's making me do this. On the other hand, I'm thrilled when they want to do something that I've spent my whole life doing, and I'm eager to do that. So how do you deal with sort of hitting that sweet spot where you're not overwhelming Caleb, but still giving him the opportunity to try out acting or being in a feature film?
I would say that it was a really interesting experience to. First of all, let me start out by saying that Caleb showed acting prowess when he was very young, and he wasn't trying to do it. Like, he used to love wearing costumes all the time, and when he would wear the costumes, I saw him become those characters, and I recognized that as someone who could really take on roles and live that role. So I saw that, so that was a good reason for me to kind of write this role. So because I recognize that he enjoys being in front of the camera as a filmmaker, and he was a child. There's been a camera in his face his whole life, so he was pretty comfortable with it. But I wanted to say one other thing, though, that working with him, and Caleb can talk about his experience as well, but working with him was very interesting for me because we have a close bond, and so I talk to him in a certain way. When I talk to other actors, I don't know them like I know my own son, so I'm a little bit more careful to make sure that everybody understands that what you did was great, let's try something else. And but with Caleb, I would just say, what are you doing? And so at one point he pulled me aside, and he was young, and he said, could you not talk to me like that in front of the other actors? And I was like so stunned, and I learned so much from that by working with him, that I was really I was like, oh my God, you're 100% right. I'm sorry. And so from then on in, I talked to him just like I talked to Tim, or, Tim and I have a very different experience because Tim has so much experience that he really brought a lot to my working with the kids. He has a lot of experience teaching kid actors. So he brought a lot to the table for that as well.
So I've got to ask Caleb, what was it like from your point of view?
Well, I honestly, I always have fond memories of it. For me, it was really, I always felt very blessed that I was given this opportunity, as I had always kind of wanted, since I was little. I said oh, I want to be an actor, or I want to be a filmmaker. And so it was really I was given a really good opportunity, and I was very fortunate to do that. It was, it's definitely a different relationship than if I had not been being directed by my dad, but because that was my first acting experience, that was what I had known first. And so I, yes, he was my dad, but in those moments, he was giving me directions, and he was acting as the director. And so it was a cool experience for sure.
So Timothy, you're the tall person in this cast of very talented but slightly less vertically challenged people. What was it like to work with a cast of people for whom, for many of them, I imagine was their first time out?
That's a great question. I think that for me, what I really focus on is trying to make a connection with any actor that I'm having an opportunity to work with, so that we can hopefully allow that connection that we're making as people off camera help resonate as we step into our roles and establish that trust and communication and work when we're actually on the set and being filmed. And once again, that's something I really loved so much with Caleb and the other younger actors is everyone was really focused. There were long days, and as we all know, there's a lot of time on a set where you have to sit and be patient and wait for the setup, and it was a pleasure. So for me, it was not challenging at all. It was really trying to connect with them and connecting with David and the other adult actors in the film and trying to tell the story to the best of our ability.
One of the things that occurs to me is just when you're doing, I mean, I do documentary work, and so when you're doing fictional work, you can do anything. And I think that's really hard because you could do anything. And how do you make a choice? I want to actually start with the co-host over here, Marty. What is it about dystopian film that you find so fascinating?
Well, the one thing, it's always a comment on present day. And we see the hints of the mistakes that maybe we're getting a little too close to now that eventually turn things upside down. And so that's why I love dystopian or any futuristic science fiction, because whenever you're creating that world, you're showing what horrible, dumb things we did to get it to that place.
And I think this movie does a good job of looking at that decision-making process and how people form alliances and how they proceed forward. David, why did you choose to work in this genre when you decided to make this film?
I've always been a huge fan of the Road Warrior movies, and I've always read that kind of like Neuromancer and William Gibson kind of novels about dystopian futures. And in college I studied George Orwell, so I just am interested in exploring potential futures and what that means, and it just was something that I wanted to kind of work within and give my shot at it. I'm not sure I'd want to do it again. Like I kind of want to, Tim and I are talking about future projects here. And I kind of want to go into the world of comedy or dark comedy. But for now, I really enjoyed working on this film. We had to create this world, and we had a great production designer who got the costumes and the color palette and all that kind of stuff was something that we discussed. So it was something that just really resonated with me in the world that I just have been interested in.
So for both David and Timothy, you're both doing this and teaching it. And so what did you learn from doing this project that's going to help you work better with students in the future?
David, you want to hit that first?
Go ahead. You do. I'll do it if you want me to.
Well, either one of us. I think for me, I work full-time here in Denver at a place called the Denver Center for the Performing Arts. And so I work there. I'm the head of acting for the adult acting program, but I also get a chance to work with teens and younger actors because there's a robust part of the education program that works with all ages. And I'm also an actor, both in theater at the Denver Center and other theaters around town. And then when I'm fortunate to land in a film project in this area, for me, the reason why I'm mentioning all of that is that I feel like I'm constantly learning from my experiences, whether I'm teaching or directing or working with other actors in a show. I just feel like we never stop learning and growing. And therefore, how can we take those experiences that we have and take the experiences in terms of seeing what's working for other folks that I have the potential or possibility to work with, and translate that into the education and opportunity that I try to provide for both adult students and child and teen when I get a chance to work with them.
And David, how about you?
I mean, I learned constantly. I would say that, when I look at the first segment, so we shot each segment in a year. You know, every year we did that one segment. And I kind of feel like we got better as the film went on. Like we started out at one place, and by the time we got to part 4, I was much better at what I was doing. And then, you know, I was learning all through it. So everything that I do, from pre-production to production to distribution, all of that I can now share with my students, and I have something to say about it from personal experience. And so it just becomes a part of who I am, and therefore it becomes a part of what I teach.
You know, and if I can add to that, I think that experiential part is what's so important for us as educators as well. And I think you both will agree, Kurt and Marty, that when we have that opportunity and that experience for ourselves, you know, that really helps us in being able to translate that when we're working with our students. So.
Absolutely.
And I'll add to that even a little further is that it's important to note that the majority of our crew were made up of students from CU Denver, or they were recent graduates of the program. So like, and my colleague, Jessica McGaw, who's the director of photography, the composer and sound designer, Leslie Gaston was also a colleague there. So like it fed into so many areas of production and teaching production that it really has had quite a reach, at least educationally as well.
Okay, which means I need to ask Caleb, what was it like watching your dad learn this while he was doing it?
So it was definitely like from like when I look at like the set and like the shoot from the first shoot in 2015, like compared to the shoot in like 2019, like there's definitely like the crew became bigger and like there was everything felt more efficient and like really like you could see the progress, like yeah.
Oh, that's terrific. I mean, I think it's terrific that you've had a chance to watch your dad work both as a teacher and as a learner at the same time while you're learning it, you know, right alongside of him. I mean, that's just a terrific opportunity.
And he lives with me, so he got to see me stress out for months before every shoot.
So there is a real world aspect to this, even when you're making a dystopian world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things I'm interested in is, you know, if you have a particular interest in the genre and you're working with students who are interested in doing other things, how do you guide them? And I'm willing to throw this out to any of the professors out there.
How do I guide them? You know,
yeah.
In relation to this genre?
No, in relation just to figuring out what type of film they should be making.
Oh, I mean, I feel like that is one of the hardest things to do as a teacher, is to have a student find their voice. You know, and a lot of students don't really have that until they've had some life experience. And so when we notice somebody who like has something to say, and they're, you know, whether or not they have the skills yet, it pops out like, oh, okay, this person knows how to write, this person has a viewpoint, and then we try to nurture that as best as possible.
And Timothy, how about you?
You know, I think the first thing I think about with that question, it's a great question. In regards to actors, I think one of the things that really translates in that regard is, you know, if you look at what Stanislavski and Udo Hagen, for example, write, and those are two folks in terms of acting technique, and Stanislavski in particular, you know, developed a system that I think is really the foundation of approach to more realism-based, objective-driven work as actors. Is they say that the first thing that we have to do is get to know ourselves, right? Because we're in every part of the work that we do. We're in every role, and the more that we get to know ourselves, so I think that's akin to what David's saying is finding your voice. So in the same way, it's, you know, giving yourself permission to know yourself, because that's going to impact all of the work that you're doing.
So what part for each of you, you know, what part of the film did you enjoy doing the most? Caleb, I'll start with you.
What part did I enjoy most? Like, as in, like, out of the 4 parts? Like,
Yeah. I mean, is there a scene that just it was just a blast to do it?
hmm. The last like part of the movie was probably like that one. Like, it was a really really fun shoot, and like I'd known the crew for now 4 years, and so it was like really that was a fun shoot. But really, like the first one that I ever did really like is sits like in a special place because it was like my first project, and it's like pretty nostalgic to think about, and I have like good memories of like that. And so I think that one, the first part, I'd probably put over that last one.
Timothy, which the scene that stood out the for you?
I really enjoyed them all. I enjoyed the interior shots a lot because there was a lot of relationship-based action that's going on. I think in terms of the filming standpoint, similarly to what Caleb said, I think there's some really challenging shots in the fourth installment, the fourth part of the film. And so it was really fun to be a part of that shooting and trying to figure out how we can all make it work with the, time constraints, budget constraints, frankly, et cetera. How can we be creative and try and make all of that work to the best of our ability? And I think David and Jessica did a terrific job in figuring out how to shoot that.
And David, as the director, what was the part that brought you the greatest satisfaction?
Finishing it. I would, making it over 4 years was, it was both a budgetary thing and it was also a design thing. Those things kind of were together. I am one that I get very stressed out prior to shooting, and once we're there and all the equipment there and everything, then it's fun. I get to work with the actors and I've got a really great crew, and then it's kind of fun while we're doing it. I gotta say, my favorite part of the thing is editing it, because now I have all the material in front of me, and that's where I'm making the movie. And then it's so exciting, like I might not see Tim for a few weeks or a few months later, but I am living with him every day, and he's unaware of that because I'm watching this and doing this, and it's just so fun to see the thing being built and edited. And Caleb actually gave me a lot of really good comments. He's very intuitive as far as what's working, and he gave me some really good feedback on things as well. So I really enjoy the post-production part of it the best.
Marty, I don't want to hog all the questions here. Do you have something you'd like to ask?
I'll just have to say, I had to stop the film at lips.
Oh, he's right here. He's fine. Sorry. That was a bold decision. I gotta say, part of the reason we had to kill off the dog, spoiler alert. He's fine. Don't worry. The dog really is okay. But we had a decision to make that. So when we see Janie is kind of has Stockholm syndrome and is living with Jasper. And so the question was, what do we do for her to get knocked out of that mindset? And killing her dog would be one of those things. And on top of it, Jessica hated working with the dog because the dog is, he's my animal and my pet. And so he was constantly following me around. And so if I wasn't holding him, he was crying. And so every time she'd look at me and I'm holding this little dog, she's like, just shakes her head and looks at me.
Well, I'm glad to know that Lips actually made it. I mean, that's encouraging. So that's good stuff. We need to wrap here in about 5 minutes, and I think I'd like everybody just to tell me what's the next project you're going to be working on, and whoever wants to go first can just leap to the mic.
So I wrote a screenplay called Publish or Perish, and it's a dark comedy, kind of like a Coen Brothers type film. and it's getting some good feedback from film festivals and screenplay competitions, and so I'm very encouraged by it. We're talking to some studios, but that's all just pretend until the check clears. So, that's what I kind of want to work on next, and I'm really proud of the script. So that's kind of where what I'm working on next. It takes place in academia. You guys would like that, about somebody trying to get tenure at all costs.
Ah.
So that really could be a horror film.
I think I've seen that.
Timothy, what are you working on?
Great question. I'm doing a lot of virtual teaching at the moment, and as we all know, in this time, it's about staying patient with projects. I'm just breathing and really enjoying the opportunity to teach right now. But everything in terms of theater and for a lot of film, at least in the area and stuff, everything's on hold. So just kind of waiting through that and looking forward to opportunities as we're able to make it out of this tough time. So.
Oh, excellent. Then there's Caleb, who knew that I was eventually going to get to him. So what are you going to do when you grow up?
Also, I've been enrolled in video production classes for the last 3 years, actually. And so I've been learning how to make movies of my own, and I'm planning on attending film school. And so I'm a junior in high school this year. So then next year I'm planning to apply to film school and all that. And I've been making like little short movies with my friends and editing all that. And then as far as acting goes, should my dad decide that he needs a kid my age in his newest film, I would happily take a role in that. And and yeah,
There is a role.
And there's no better endorsement than when somebody wants to work with you again. It's like, as opposed to my dad, All right, we're going to bring back Pearl, where she's going to, I'm pretty sure, pitch Caleb on entering a student film in this particular film festival as soon as he produces one. But I'll let Pearl make the pitch.
Kurt, you stole my line. That is exactly right, Caleb. I am so excited to hear that you are making films. I am also way more shocked that this experience with your dad and this incredible team was not a cautionary tale. So unfortunately, you're headed in that direction too, and we love you. So please send us your work, and at the very least, you can also just be part of our jury. We include high school members into our jury, and mixed with college students and of course industry professionals. So we'd absolutely love for you to stay in our family here, since you're into like working with family apparently. We would love to have you involved in the Center Film Festival. So Kurt, now that you stole that line, I'm going to have to come up with a new one. First of all, you guys got me. I'm in. It was enough to just watch the films and get intrigued. Marty and I were talking yesterday about like why, I'm not into dystopia. Marty's talking about his love for dystopia. And a lot of our students, Marty, right, are very into making dystopia. It's something that's very hard for me to guide. So I really just loved your question about that. Like how do you guide students in a genre or in a way of crafting that doesn't necessarily speak to you as someone who's teaching. And then of course, David, you were talking about how each story really is about digging deep into your own voice. And in the end, genre isn't really the ultimate point. That's just how they do it. So I really appreciate this conversation so much. I wish we could keep talking because this is turning into a panel on teaching. Caleb, I was going to ask you what this experience taught you. I'm assuming that it taught you your passion for film, but maybe you could share something you've learned about yourself in the process of opening your vulnerabilities up and allowing yourself to be in a film like this where the stakes are so high, where you're asked to connect with an older female character, which is a little like odd for a younger boy character. She's not his mom, etc. And then, of course, the love interest part, I'm sure wasn't that tough for you. But I'm just curious, like, what you got out of this experience where you had to open up so much and be available to the story.
Well, you kind of hit it on the nose. I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker, like, For sure, for sure. Like I'd kind of had a clue, but it like set in stone. Like, oh, like this is definitely what I want to do. I really enjoy this. And then on top of that, like I kind of like I decided that like I love acting and I'd love to do it on the side and all that, but that I really like would love to be directing and writing my own projects and be behind the camera as well. And yeah, working with Danielle, working like you said, having like her in places like my mother figure. It was really it didn't ever strike me as like an uncomfortable thing. Danielle was like she was, we did a lot of rehearsals and I was comfortable with the script and all that, so it wasn't too nothing was too uncomfortable.
That's good. That's really great. And so I'm excited for your journey. Timothy, it turns out you do look familiar for a reason. You're in a friend of mine's film called Small Beautifully Moving Parts. That's Annie Howell's film. I knew it.
I love that you know her. She is just a fantastic human and a great filmmaker. That's wonderful.
She is both of those things, and we were colleagues at Ohio University. So again, we're turning this into a panel of educator, artists, creators, and how we guide ourselves, how we guide our students and ourselves in the process. So Timothy, we're going to keep looking out for your work. David, you shared with us what you're working on now, but we'd love to have you back if you're open to it, to do some more talks on the filmmaking process and your inspiration. So I hope you too will stay in the Center Film Festival family. Marty, I think you need to finish us, to give us a couple more thoughts about, I'm just really, I don't know if you guys know this, I do because I work with him. The students absolutely love Marty. He's like the star film professor in the sense that they all really can connect with him. So I think I'm going to go around the room, and Kurt, you're not off the hook. If each of you could give advice, including you, Caleb, and we'll start with you, Marty, to our students. Now, I know that you see them all the time, Marty, but we don't know who's listening. There might be a student in a different school, different university. So maybe just, not that you have to boil all lessons down to one, but just something you want to leave us with tonight as a good, inspiring piece of advice. And so we'll start with you, Marty.
Okay. From a writing and an idea creating perspective, when you break down story elements, there are not that many stories. If we have a love interest, guy finds girl, guy, they get together, works out, doesn't work out. What makes each story in film interesting and why we want to watch it as an audience is what the writers and directors put into it, their point of views, their perspectives, and that's what makes really good films. You can have a very simple storyline, but if you really hash it out, it could be fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, David?
I would say to a student, which I often do, is a lot of students think they need a lot of money, and they get caught up in trying to raise money, where, and when you're in film school, this is your time to experiment and to try things and to take advantage of, people around you who want to experience this as well. So really focus in on the people of the story that you're trying to tell, and really break down, what are their wants and what are their needs, and focus on the people, and don't worry so much about the money, because, it will make itself known if you are more conscious of that sort of thing.
That's really great advice. Timothy?
Great question. I guess I would add to that, just in thinking about artistry, two things for younger students right now is, one, just keep remembering that you're going to continue to grow and learn with every opportunity that you have. So I encourage you to seize any opportunity that you can to do work. And to add to that, I think right now, a great example of what's happening in our country and our world right now is students, your voices need to be heard. And so I think it's so imperative for you to know that and tell your story or tell stories in general.
Absolutely. And Caleb, what about you?
I guess if I would tell like a student something, I just like to be finding like you're studying or creating about something that you're like truly passionate about, and that you're putting in everything that you can to achieve that goal.
Awesome. I think that's really good advice. Kurt, I said you weren't off the hook. In fact, I made you last. They took all the good ones. What do you got?
Find a good editor and somebody who's going to give you feedback that's for real.
Right.
When I did my first professional published video piece, I thought it was pretty good. My editors thought it was pretty good. I sent a copy of it to a friend of mine who was the TV photographer of the year. He wouldn't even reply. It was so bad he didn't even know where to start. But that was a bad thing, because I needed to know that I wasn't there yet. I wasn't even close to being there yet. And I think that you have to not be afraid to just fail dramatically, as long as you learn from it. I mean, you just pick up the pieces and get better the next time out.
That's awesome. And so I'll end the way I began. What I learned is what I'm going to now impart to you. Stay open to any possibility, get informed, watch a lot of movies, go to film festivals. We're going to wrap with all of you tonight. We hope to see all of you back here again at the Center Film Festival, or just come visit us in Center County when we can start having guests again. I want to thank Marty and I want to thank Kurt for helping us guide us through that conversation. And I want to thank Caleb and Timothy and David for being our guests. I want to thank Noah for joining us. This was really enlightening. I want to invite everyone to join us at 1:45 a.m. because what else are you doing tonight? To have a conversation about our late night picks, which looks at erotica and FX and film. Caleb, you're going to go to sleep. He might actually be like our one viewer at 1:45 a.m. There's nothing blatant about it. It's just a really cool conversation with a Polish filmmaker and a couple of one filmmaker in New York and the other in Muncie, Indiana, about their work. And so we're going to continue these filmic conversations. We loved having you here. We'll see you hopefully next year. Everyone have a great night and to be continued.
All right. Nice meeting
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Marty. Kurt.